Hello everyone, I thought I'd give you an idea of a little bit of how I work, if that interests you. In short, this one is more done than this one, so I will take this fellow and increase the detail on that. This will be my reference that I compare to. I have the basis, the drawing underneath the color, but as you can see in the differences in the reference, there's more lights and more darks, so I will have to go in and add those. Just so that I can get a full understanding of the values. In terms of my eyes, I like to go in and get the whites established so that I have all the others to compare to. These are what are called Prismacolor pencils. They're similar in a tool to, it's just a wax type of pencil that I can erase. I hope all this goes well, because I can't exactly do it a second time. I got to get this right the first time for you. And if that isn't quite white enough, along with using the pencils, I would use paint. And he's got some really white hair here. Which I think looks great. I started going gray in my mid-20s personally, and so I'm sure I'll look just like him one day. Now I will go in and reestablish the lights from the darks, light from the shadow rather. To increase the contrast. Right now I'm working very generally. Looking at the bigger areas that need to change. I don't always just copy what I see in the photograph. I have to reinterpret it. The information that I see, it's kind of like a song or music, in that every musician is going to play something differently depending on how they feel or given their own particular talents and strengths. What I like to do personally is to have everybody look better than they would. Or maybe on just a how they looked on their best days, rather than being perfectly faithful. Nobody needs to have every single line represented. Only what contributes the most. Now that's part of the light side there. Now going in to add the highlights, you can see the sun has provided some really strong highlights. And what I'm doing in a sense is what an artist would call describing the form. And if something's round, I try and make it look round. My eyes are darting back and forth from what I'm drawing to the photograph, so I can correct and adjust and see what is necessary and what's not, what's important. Making the judgments to see if I've got everything that's creating the likeness. I can see this is starting to emerge a little bit. Now another way that I apply color is with an airbrush. I can see that some of these areas aren't quite dark enough. So I will add some shadow. Ever so subtly. That looks a little better to me. And then another way that I apply is with a brush, where I would go in and establish some of the darks. Looks like he's got kind of bluish eyes. He's got a lot of character, which is really fun to paint. But I have to be careful and not overdo it, because your eye will always go to the areas that have the most contrast visually. But as an artist, I have to decide what is most important. If a person has some features that are really attractive, then I will want to highlight those and feature those. But if I were painting myself, I definitely would want to not flatter my nose. Because there's not much to flatter there with me. But if a person has really beautiful eyes, for example, and I would want to make the contrast there so that the person can be captivated by the eyes. Others would have a real charming smile. Others have gorgeous hair. I want to make them look ideal. I always move back and forth because if I stare at an area too long, I get used to what it looks like and I kind of lose my objectivity, and I need to stay as objective as possible. And at a certain point, I will actually start working on the final touches of a painting by turning the painting upside down, because that way it allows me to see the shapes, how the light is hitting in a new way, and that way I can make sure that I'm completely accurate with what I'm representing. And not only value, I would go in and add additional color at this stage as well. I like to have the faces to be very bright and cheerful if it calls for it. So I'm brightening up the cheeks. Anyway, I would probably spend about 2 hours on that to get it done, but at least that's an idea to give you a start of how I work, and I hope that's useful to you, and I wish you well.